It's now time for The Sit Down with Don Tony.
The Sit Down, where Don Tony talks one-on-one with his followers.
What are you looking at?
About the world of pro wrestling, pop culture, and so much more.
The Sit Down with Don Tony.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
You know, somebody was kind enough to surprise me with a Windows 95 laptop and wants me to install this thing, this interactive Stone Cold Steve Austin from, I don't know, 1998 and 1999. The problem is you can't connect to a WWE server. So to Mikey, who may be seeing this, I appreciate it, but I don't know if we're going to be able to do anything with this, but much love. God, feel so much better now from 2 weeks ago, getting that COVID, and man, was bad blood an awesome event yesterday. I had to look down because I forgot I muted my microphone before because I still got a little bit of a cough. Sometimes I forget to unmute. I actually said this the other day on Patreon. At least 3 times, maybe 4, I don't count, but at least 3 times over the last month and a half, I've done a daily news update, and I go to post it online, and there's no audio, and then I realized that the entire show that I did, the microphone was muted the entire time. So it happens. So how's everybody doing tonight? It is Sunday, October 6th, 2024. Welcome to your latest edition of The Sit Down. I hope everyone is having a good weekend. Tomorrow night, as you saw in a little video preview teaser thingy that we do, Monday night after Raw, Kevin and I will be live for the Don Tony and Kevin Castle show. We will recap and review Bad Blood in its entirety. We'll get into all the latest wrestling news, couple of other discussions. And just a reminder, Raw ends Monday at 10:15 instead of 11:15. I mean, it's been, a decade since Raw went off the air. Actually, even before that, Raw was 8 to 10. And then Nitro, Nitro was 8 to 10. And Raw was 9 to 11 back in the day when they had the hour difference. I think that's what it is. But it's been a long time since we've finished wrestling on Monday nights at 10:15 p.m. So I'm looking forward to it. Get to go to sleep an hour earlier, get to start the show an hour earlier, and that does make a difference. So how did you all like Bad Blood for those that tuned in yesterday? Man, was that a good event. I said this on a news update earlier today. I think it was my favorite WWE event this year. I mean, WrestleMania is kind of the exception to the rule, but non-WrestleMania, I think Bad Blood was it. No outrage from the excessive blood and violence from CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. And I'm not talking about the wrestling community. You can do this once in a while. This is a preview of what we will have in the future. CM Punk has said it. Roman Reigns has said it. Even though people in the media world will try to tell you otherwise, WWE's not changing much of anything. You will hear an extra expletive here and there. The holy shit chants by the fans will not be censored when it's on Netflix, but they're not changing all that much. Why? If it's not broken, don't fix it, But when you see that Hell in a Cell match with Drew McIntyre and CM Punk, that is the difference of when you really need to pull it out of the bag and the time is right. Some people are calling it match of the year. Some people calling it match of the year. You want to know something? Listen, I know not everybody's a Cornette fan, but I even think Jim Cornette would not call that lazy booking, because that was, listen, I hate people who compare WWE to AEW. You know, Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland is not on this level, because Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland took many months off, you know, during their feud from last year to this year. Their feud was spectacular, probably the feud of the year in AEW. I don't compare CM Punk and Drew McIntyre to Swerve Strickland and Hangman Page. It's unfair. It's disrespectful to the wrestlers. But what you saw in that Hell in a Cell was exactly what you needed to see. You know, Kevin and I have been doing this together for about 20 years now. Oh, and by the way, I got to quick plug it. The shirts are done. This is our 20th anniversary shirt. That is the front. That is the back. We don't do fake news to make news. Now, unfortunately, Pro Wrestling Tees, which is affiliated with AEW, obviously, is taking their sweet-ass time to put the designs online. I sent it to them 6 days ago. Now, I'm not one that's going to, you know, start complaining on social media and post tweets and this and that. But for everyone out there that's asking, why is it not available in the Pro Wrestling Tees store yet? They haven't put the designs up. But it is available through YouTube. If you look on the bottom of the video, you should see the Spring store has it. And I know the shirt is probably $1 or $2 more than what it would be in Pro Wrestling Tees, but there's a big difference here. Spring is cheaper to ship, and it doesn't matter if you're anorexic or if you're an obese blimp. The price is the same. So across the board, because that's one thing that I used to hate. When I used to wear 3XL and I used to order wrestling shirts from Pro Wrestling Tees, you know, it'd be like, oh, come on, man. Why do I have to spend an extra $6? I know it's a little more material, but how much more material, you know? They don't print the logo bigger. They just put it on a bigger shirt. So it's available. But, you know, Kevin and I back in the day, you know, one thing that we absolutely hated in wrestling, and some of you will remember this, you'd have two guys feuding with each other. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to beat the shit out of you. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill your family. I'm exaggerating, but I can't. When I get my hands on you, it's going to be hell. And then the first move they do in a match is a collar and elbow tie-up. I can never fucking understand that. Suspension of disbelief. Everything that Drew McIntyre has done to CM Punk over the last 9 months plus, everything that CM Punk has done to Drew McIntyre, there is so much bitter hatred in this feud that you go in the cell and you want to literally commit murder if you could get away with it. And that's what you saw. You didn't see any campy stuff. Even the bracelet charms, you know, that was epic. And like I said on the Daily News Update this morning, you walk around your house barefoot and step on a couple of Legos and see how your foot feels. Go take 100 dice, 100 pairs of dice, throw it on the floor and just fall down and see how you feel the next day. You don't need, this is, I think, the biggest misconception about hardcore wrestling. You don't need to penetrate the skin to cause pain. The visual, obviously, the visual is why you do it, but you don't necessarily need to puncture the skin. And yesterday was a great example of that with those charms. Listen, Bad Blood was not perfect. On a scale of 1 to 10, I give it 7.5 and 8. I wish there would have been an extra match or two on the card. I think Gunther and Sami Zayn warranted to be on Bad Blood. I think Braun Strowman and Bronson Reed warranted to be on that card because their bad blood is so intense. I don't know why they couldn't do an opening match prior to the pay-per-view. You know, I mean, yeah, it'd be a little unfair for some of those guys that it's a pre-show match, but still, I think if you would have had one extra match and maybe have what went down with, you know, Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan finish a different way, I think we would be looking at this much different. Now, again, tomorrow night, Kevin and I will be live for the DTKC show. We'll do a full-blown review and a recap. I will tell you this, though. The Rock returning yesterday is very, very intriguing. And I touched on this morning a little bit, and then we'll go to your questions. We'll stay with your questions for the rest of the night. There's a couple of ways they could go with this with The Rock. All right. Kevin Owens already turned his back. If you remember the Goodfellas scenario, The Rock could do the same thing to Roman Reigns. Kevin Owens, weeks ago we said this. Kevin Owens is going to question Cody Rhodes. How could you align yourself with him? Well, we agreed to watch each other's back to take down the bloodline. Fuck the bloodline. Let them all kill each other. Why are you getting involved with it? Let them destroy each other. Cody did what he thought was right. Kevin Owens finally snapped yesterday. Randy Orton should be next. The Rock should do the same thing to Roman Reigns. How could you align yourself with Cody Rhodes after everything that happened at WrestleMania? Everything that led up to it. You lost the championship to him. He is not a friend. He's an enemy. How could you align yourself with him? This is bloodline business. Why are you bringing him into bloodline business? The Rock could turn on Roman Reigns. Remember, we all anticipated Rock Roman WrestleMania 41. What do you think about Rock versus Roman versus Cody Rhodes WrestleMania 41? I kind of like it. Because, there were people that were convinced Rock was going to win that championship. Listen, again, we'll never truly know what the story was going to be at WrestleMania 40. You got to remind yourself, just because someone is a good person, just because you like the person, doesn't mean they don't lie to you. It is professional wrestling. It is sports entertainment. It's suspension of disbelief. All right? Just because you think Cody is the most genuinely good person in the wrestling world and Triple H is just so dedicated to the fans doesn't mean that they ain't working you. They ain't working you. I always said it. Did you see the added footage that came out recently? CM Punk admitted he was supposed to face Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 40. He was supposed to win the chamber and go on to face Seth at WrestleMania 40. Well, you explain to me something, because they didn't even know that he had torn his bicep or tricep yet. If Seth was going to face CM Punk and Rock was supposed to face Roman, who was Cody Rhodes going to face? Cody Rhodes won the Royal Rumble. Remember, he pointed to Roman Reigns. If he would have pointed to Seth Rollins, what the fuck would have happened to CM Punk when he wins the chamber? Are we going to have a match on Raw to determine the number one contender for WrestleMania? We'll never truly know. And honestly, I think it's good that we don't truly know, because that's what makes wrestling as good as it is. When you truly don't know what was supposed to happen, of course we want to know. I need to know. We need to know. Baron von Raschke. But now you say to yourself, wow, wouldn't that be something for WrestleMania 41? The only thing that sucks about it is, what do you do with Randy Orton? Could you do Randy versus John Cena? I don't think so. You got a whole 9 months after that, or 8 months for John Cena to still wrestle. I think Randy versus John Cena might be one of the last matches that we see in John Cena's career. So I like Bad Blood. I thought it was great. Raquel Rodriguez returning, we all expected that, and she did pretty much what we expected her to do. Didn't come off as well as we hoped, but now the question is, Raquel Rodriguez, will she be a full-fledged member of the Bloodline? It's not a bad idea. Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez going after Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill for those tag titles. Why not? Why not? It's not a bad idea. You kind of liven up that women's tag team division a little bit. You could have Damage Control feuding with Liv and Raquel. The only thing is, if with a Wyatt 6 go after the Judgment Day, you only got one woman in Nikki Cross. So unless you have Rhea Ripley and Raquel Rodriguez go this way, and you have Liv Morgan and Nikki Cross go that way. And I have a feeling that's where they're going to go. I think that's where they're going to go. So, all right. Let's get into your questions, shall we? By the way, I want to say one last thing before we move on. Congrats to AEW for inking that deal. You see what's going on in the media world. You know what's fact and what's not. And, everybody is out there to try to put their name in the history books that when you look back on it, this part. And not only that, all this extra noise you hear in the last couple of days that AEW is negotiating with Fox and AEW is at $150 million a year, is it $200 million a year? These are people trying to divert and change the subject that they got that shit in many ways way wrong. We gathered all the tweets of a lot of media people out there that got it way wrong. Only in wrestling can you get $40-50 million a year wrong with a TV deal, even number of years, and still think, it was pretty accurate on that. So good for AEW. The money is in the pay-per-views. The money is in the streaming. They're going to get an extended audience with Max. There's going to be a whole new, listen, sometimes you go on a streaming service and you watch a movie for a genre that you're not even a big fan of. Some people will casually check out a wrestling show here and there. You see what's going to happen with Netflix and the WWE. It's insane to think how many extra millions of views WWE is going to get for Raw every week simply because they're on Netflix. What I'm waiting for, and be prepared, I'm waiting for a couple of countries to block WWE programming on Netflix. Just waiting for a couple of countries. I'm not going to say which countries, but there's a lot of buzz. Some countries ban certain content on Netflix. That Menendez brothers one, there's a couple of countries that are like, no, we don't let our residents watch that garbage. We do not let you. No. So congrats to AEW, man. Congrats. Like I said before, I don't need social media to express, my appreciation and opinions and other shit in wrestling. We do it here. So let's get into questions. Big shout out to everybody. Who joined our channel members over the last week? I know I put them right at the beginning of this. We'll play this again later. Robert Kennedy. Shout out to Robert Kennedy, who became a channel member over the last week. Much love to you, my friend. And thank you to everybody who's joining me live on the archive. You download the shows, you spread the word, keep helping Kev and I grow. And by the way, little treat, not a treat, but I think it's more of an annoyance. There's no commercials live right now streaming. After the show is over, obviously there'll be some commercials, but for everybody who's live, somebody asked me last week, can you take the commercials out? And my immediate reaction inside was, no, I got to pay fucking bills. Then I looked at the analytics, and I'm like, do I really need, that couple of dollars that bad? So I took off the commercials today. So if you're not a subscriber yet, subscribe. That helps. If you like the show, hit the like. That helps. Might recommend YouTube the show this to others. So if you want me to keep other things, free and ad-free and other stuff like that, how's that? Is that a deal? If everybody hits live, we got 431 people live right now. If all of you hit that goddamn like button and all of you is subscribed, then I could hit a button and you'll get Kamala Harris and Donald Trump commercials. Isn't that lovely? So let's get into questions. Let's get into some super shout outs that came in over the last 21 minutes. And let's discuss. Police Squad, what's up, Police Squad? Triple H was asked about lack of black talent on pay-per-views. And his response was that he doesn't see color. I'd love to know your take since he's getting ripped for that response. Oh, boy. I'm not the right person to answer this. I'm an Italian white guy. You know, like, am I the right person to be answering this? I'll give you my honest opinion. I don't give a shit who I get angry. I try to treat everybody the same. It's, of course, when you say, I don't look at somebody black, I don't look at somebody white, straight, gay, I look at everybody equal. Yeah, that's true. I think the question that people are getting wrong with this, and for those that don't know what PS is talking about and what's been going on, over the last week, there's been this outrage that there's been almost no black talent on WWE Premium Live events. In fact, I even think Kevin and I mentioned it last week that the last time a guy in singles action, a black guy in singles action, wrestled on a WWE Premium Live event that's not named NXT was a year ago. And that is pretty surprising. It is pretty surprising. We're talking singles matches now. Now, what I did to be a dick, because a lot of people who really push this that didn't have the right agenda in mind. Listen, people who are black that are frustrated, I get it. Totally understand it. No issue with it at all. Then you got people that just don't like WWE, that just want to use this as a reason to shit on them. And I looked at AEW All Out. And outside of pre-show, wasn't Swerve Strickland the only black man to be in singles action for All Out? If you go to All In, other than the Acclaimed, which was a tag team match, wasn't Swerve Strickland the only black man to wrestle in a singles match? Oh, there's one, and here there's none. Oh, big difference. Big difference. Listen, I look at it like this. It's not, I think people are asking the wrong question. Instead of saying, how come black talents aren't being featured? All right, you should be asking yourself, do you want someone to be featured because they're black? Or do you want someone not to be featured because they're black? You see the difference here? I don't think anybody on the WWE roster is being held back because they're black. There's a big difference with someone being pushed because they're black and someone not being pushed because they're black. See the difference? I don't call it reverse racism, because some people were saying, I don't even think they understand the definition of that. But how would you feel? This is how I say it. How would you feel that you find out that the reason, think of Trading Places with Eddie Murphy. Imagine you find out that you're getting a shot on a show and you're getting a push, and you find out it's not because I'm talented, it's because I'm black or because I'm gay. How would that make you feel? Seriously. I don't know. I'm not black and I'm not gay, so I can't answer that. But I would think that if you're on a show to meet a quota, I think that's worse. Imagine you find out that WWE is putting guys in singles matches on a pay-per-view, not because they deserve it, but because they're black. What's worse? So it's a fucked up answer. Triple H saying, I don't see color. I think that's a little bit too broad, I think might be the right answer to say. Of course, he doesn't want to have like that moment with the general manager of the Dodgers in the early 80s. I can't remember his name right now. But anybody remember when Ted Koppel interviewed someone who's management on the Dodgers and said, how come they don't have, how come there's no black managers? Outside, I think Frank Robinson, how come there's no black executives? And this guy, someone may remember his name. I'll shout you out if you remember it. But this guy said, maybe they just don't have it to be an executive. And he got fired because of it, because it just sounded so disgusting. You know, that was shit that they said in the 50s and the 60s. Me personally, I don't want to see someone pushed because they're black. It's a no-win situation, guys. Because if Triple H starts putting a black guy in a high-profile singles match on a pay-per-view, you're going to get that same audience to say, oh, he's only doing that now because he wants to shut everybody up. How do you win? You know, I kind of agree with Triple H. In this day and age, doesn't everybody want to be treated equal? Doesn't everybody want to be treated not because of the color of their skin, you know, but the content of their character? Like, why is it always black, white, straight, gay, you know, male, female? That's the thing that annoys me, that at some point, it might not be for 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, 100 years from now. At some point, everybody, I would think, would want to feel that when I'm walking down the street, whether my fingernails are painted and I'm a guy, or I got long, beautiful blonde hair, or if I want to wear makeup, or if I'm gay, or if I'm black, or if I'm Chinese, if I'm Indian, if I'm fat, and I am fat, like, nobody looks at each other like, oh, he's different, she's different. I think, isn't that what people want? That's how I look at it. I don't know. I mean, I just think, you know, Triple H's answer was a little bit too vague. I don't see color. You know, I think he should have been better prepared for that question. But I'll say this, I don't believe WWE is not pushing someone black because they're black. Tell me who's not getting pushed right now on the men's side simply because they're black. And please don't say to me, oh, well, Bobby Lashley got released. The motherfucker's almost 50. Shelton Benjamin got released. Yeah, Shelton Benjamin is a likable guy, but in the WWE scope of things right now, they're not going to drop everything and give them tag team championships because it's the right thing to do. I mean, come on. And if we're going to really split hairs here, why don't you look at other promotions and go look at their singles matches and say to yourself, how many black guys were on their pay-per-views? And when you start narrowing it down, you'll be like, holy shit. Ugh. All right. That's my answer. Look, you know, I wish Montez Ford would have been a singles champion right now. They haven't done it. You know, he's the one guy that stands out to me more than anything else. Xavier Woods, I think, is going to be, I think Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston may wrestle each other on the next pay-per-view. And and you want to know something? If they wrestle each other on the next pay-per-view, they're not wrestling each other because they're black. They're wrestling each other because of not the next pay-per-view, because we got to wait till November for the anniversary, the 10-year anniversary of the New Day. But if they end up doing it after Survivor Series, I don't think they're wrestling each other on a pay-per-view premium live event because they're black. It's because of the feud, the storyline. So, all right. Let's move on. Please go out. Thank you for the second one, my friend. Do I really think they'll do Goldberg versus Gunther? Hell no. Hell no. People writing that shit on social media say they're just trying to engage people to click on their shit. They're not doing Goldberg and Gunther. Come on. Even, first of all, look at every wrestling news site that put a graphic of Gunther versus Goldberg on a crown jewel card. Did you see that last night and today? I watched all of these morons put on crown jewel Goldberg versus Gunther. Didn't fucking Triple H just announce 2 trophies in the shape of titles? That every year now, at Crown Jewel, they're going to have a Crown Jewel champion. Isn't Gunther going to be taking on Cody Rhodes? How is Gunther going to take on Goldberg as well? Unless Goldberg beats Cody for the championship. That ain't happening. That ain't happening. They were in Atlanta. Goldberg is beloved in Atlanta. Goldberg's getting his retirement match, probably at Mania. That's it. That's all that was. Goldberg could go in the camera and say, you're next. Boy, you're next. Gunther, you're next. Gunther, I'm going to fuck you up. Gunther, I'm going to eat you up and spit you out. My son's going to beat the shit. I don't care what Goldberg said. I put that on the same value as Rikishi. Goldberg just played along as the character. WWE's not doing Goldberg versus Gunther. No. No. Hell no. Umar. What's up, Umar? Thank you for the 5-spot, Umar. Hey, DT, hope you're well. My vibe is this. Survivor Series War Games, it'll be Roman, Jimmy, Jay, Sami Zayn, and The Rock. Wait. Roman, Jimmy, Jay, and Sami Zayn with Rock, Solo, Jacob Fatu, Tama Tonga. Or they do 5-on-5. I don't think so. I'll tell you why. Most of you probably haven't seen this yet. Solo Sikoa made a comment after Bad Blood, and he said that The Rock's return was the plan all along. When a heel says something like that, that means Rock is not going along with this program. Unless Rock swerves Team Roman at Survivor Series, turns on Roman. I think that is a legit scenario. You could have Rock, Jay, Jimmy, and Roman, and maybe Sami Zayn, or Cody. You could do Cody. I don't know if I want to see that, but you could have Rock be the last person to exit the chamber. Rock goes in the ring, and then Rock just turns around and just levels Roman Reigns. And then you just have the heel bloodline just beat the living shit out of the current members of the old bloodline. And that's how you do Survivor Series. The only issue I have with that is it's only November, December, January, February, March, April. You'd have to stretch out the hype of Rock and Roman for 5 months to WrestleMania. And I don't see that happening. Remember, they still have Hikuleu that is going to debut, although we think it's going to be NXT. As of right now, there's no other members that's supposed. Listen, I think what you have on TV is what you're going to get. I think it's too late to announce new members to go forward. I think now you have to try to figure out how do you get Jey Uso involved with this. And if Jimmy shows, expresses publicly love for Jay, they bump into each other or something, then I could see the heel bloodline screwing with Jey Uso to get back at Jimmy. That's mafia stuff. Sometimes you go after family, not necessarily wife and kids, but you go after other members of the family, as a revenge because you want to, not just physically destroy the person who you're trying to ruin their life. You want to destroy them mentally as well. Mentally ruining someone sometimes is just as good as physical. Trust me. And it's very hard to mentally hurt someone and get in trouble for it. You might get sued, but how do you commit a crime? He verbally abused me. Oh, you're arrested. If you do that to a cop, it might be different. By the way, did you all see that nonsense with Nikki Garcia and Artem the last 48 hours? They're dueling restraining orders. I covered it this morning. Kevin and I could have a field day tomorrow with it. They are meant for each other. They are both complete fuck-ups. I don't want to see either side beat each other up, especially with a kid involved. But I read this restraining order and I'm reminded myself, yeah, it's California. If I was the California court and I read what they wrote in their restraining orders, I would have said, get the fuck out of here and go to marriage counseling. They did almost nothing to each other, But the funny thing is, it's not funny, but it's funny. Do you remember when Kevin and I first covered it and we said maybe Nikki threw shoes at Artem because he got canned from Dancing with the Stars? Apparently she did throw shoes at him. But that guy is such a sissy. Did you see the cut on his arm? You got to go on TMZ and look at the cut on it. This guy, listen, guys, I said this morning. If you were a kid and you fell off your bicycle and you scraped up your elbow and you cry and your mom would give you like a piece of cake and rub some dirt on it or put a Band-Aid on it, this guy actually, this is a grown man now that was a celebrity on TV, actually went on TMZ and said, look, she hurt me. And he shows 2 tiny, tiny little scratches on his elbow. I'm like, I'm sorry for using this word, everyone. I'm like, you are the biggest pussy that I've ever seen that like in recent memory. I would be embarrassed to go on there. I think everybody in TMZ would probably laughing at him like, grow the fuck up. You got to see it. I don't have the picture here, but it is worth going out of your way to see it. So, but as far as Survivor Series, look, Sami Zayn is probably going to get involved with it. Jey Uso obviously will. I think it's going to be 5-on-5. I think you're going to go Roman, Usos, Sami Zayn. And then the question is Rock or Cody. I mean, with Kevin Owens turning this quick, maybe they don't go with Cody. But, it's intriguing. But I think The Rock, when he said that, you saw that promo he cut after Bad Blood when he said there's a lot of bullshit going on the last 6 months. He could be talking not only about Cody winning the championship and the way Roman is acting now, but he could also be talking about Solo Sikoa with his power going to his head. In fact, I would not be surprised if we see an episode of SmackDown in the near future where Solo Sikoa and Roman Reigns have interaction in the ring. And Solo Sikoa thinks that The Rock is going to be proud of him for stepping up and being the tribal chief that Roman Reigns turned out to not be. And I think The Rock is going to put Solo in his place. And everybody's going to think that The Rock is turning babyface. And then you might see Survivor Series or maybe a few months after he turns. He turns on Roman. I think he's got to turn on Roman. Let him turn on Roman the same way that Kevin Owens turned on Cody. That's what I would do. So, shout out to Curated Vibrations, who's been a channel member for 6 months now. Much love, my friend. DeMarcus says they could bring back whoever they want, Team Cody all day long. I love when Michael Cole brought up Ole Anderson and Dusty Rhodes. Sometimes you do have to team with your enemy. The problem is that your friends may not be happy with it. And you know what I think storyline wise is what snapped Kevin Owens yesterday in storyline? Go back and watch the ring right before Roman came out. When Roman Reigns, right before The Rock came out, when Roman Reigns handed the championship back to Cody Rhodes, look at Jimmy Uso. That's what Jimmy Uso was doing. Why would Jimmy Uso suddenly have this appreciation for Cody Rhodes? Yes, Cody did take out the current bloodline, but he's clapping. And I'm like, why are you clapping? I'm just storyline, obviously. And I think that's what set off Kevin Owens in storyline. Now you got Jimmy back. Now you got Rock back. What the fuck did you do? So we will see. We will see. Shout out to Bob the Builder. Bob says Miro is still with AEW. Okay. All right. Fightful reported on Friday, and I did give them credit this morning. Fightful reported that Miro was granted his release from AEW. Maybe something came out late tonight. If anything did come out, hopefully it came from Miro's mouth himself. I'm still with AEW. But unless you're not aware that Fightful reported that on Friday. Fightful reported that Miro was granted his release on Friday from AEW. I said this morning that if he was granted his release, I think there'll be possibly a stipulation where he cannot sign with WWE for a certain period of time. I think that is a possibility. So, OTS Tribal Queen says he's still with AEW. Huh. So I wonder where Fightful got it from then. See, that's why I started crediting over the last 6 months. If you notice, guys, I start crediting sources that put this out there. So this way, if they're wrong, we know who the original people were that originally reported that. But Fightful, I even subscribe to their Patreon. Fightful usually gets the shit right. So I'm wondering who gave them that. But I'll definitely look into it a little bit further. If Miro just went publicly and said, no, I'm still with AEW, then, then we don't need to know anything else. But I'm gonna go look into it. I will definitely look into it. So, all right. Tyrese Valeriano. Valeriano. Yes, Tyrese Valeriano. I think Kevin Owens and Cody will be like an abusive relationship. 1 week arguments, next week decent turns, building a full-blown heel turn. It is going to be interesting once Cody Rhodes does turn heel. You probably, if Kevin Owens stays heel at that time, they might reunite as a cohesive unit. Kevin Owens is hurt because, again, you follow the storyline. So what? Cody said he was done with the bloodline. Why did Cody need to align with Roman Reigns? Sometimes you let people rot within. When you see people that are ruining each other, you want to get involved and you want to be part of their demise. Sit back and enjoy it. It's called karma. In storyline, Cody should have just sat back and called it karma. Oh, Roman and Solo and Jimmy and Jay. It sounds like a Christmas rhyme. On Jimmy, on Jay, on Roman, on Solo, blah, 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 and Polo. Randy Orton's got a turn also. Cody made the biggest mistake by aligning with the person who caused Kevin Owens and Randy Orton the most problems over the last couple of years. And hopefully Rock does that to Roman. So there's so many ways they could go with this. That's what's great about it. There's so many ways, and we don't even have Jay back in the storyline. You don't even know how they're going to incorporate Sammy again if they do, and I think they will. It's going to be good, man. It's going to be really good. I'm looking forward to seeing what goes on. Shout out to the mayor of Dinosaur Island, Landry. I know it's cut off, but I know who you are. Thank you for that, my friend. Much love. Thank you for that. So, let's head over to the chat room. Feel free to express your comments, anything about Bad Blood, AEW, whatever you want to talk about. If you have a question, you can post it as well. Benjamin asks, did I see the Perry Saturn video by WrestleLore? He credited me for my investigation, but inexplicably referred me as a former bounty hunter. Are you serious? Is that real? Bounty hunter? I did collections, but I didn't collect in person. This wasn't like Joe Spinell and Rocky. Hey, could I go collecting? Hey, yo, Rocky, you need a job? Why don't you do some collecting? Hey, yo, maybe. No, I was just a regular guy trying to find out if Perry Saturn was alive. I got to look into that. I have to look into that. He gave me credit? Wow. Boy, as the tides have turned. Remember when I will admit, when he was on with, who's Kevin Nash's co-host again? Oh my God, I feel bad because I freaking love the guy's work. It's late. I'm tired. I've been up since early this morning. Who's Kevin Nash's co-host again? With the Click This podcast. Sean Oliver. Thank you, douche. When Perry Saturn was on with Sean Oliver 10 years ago, I felt bad the way I wrote the question, but I was mad because I did a lot of investigating and I uncovered a lot of crazy shit. And then Perry Saturn's ex-wife was harassing me and a lawyer was harassing me because they were trying to find out where he was so they could serve him with papers. Then the internet ripped me apart. Like, leave the fucking guy alone. And I'm like, oh, come on. I just want to find out if he was alive. It's not my fault that I found out. I still have the court records that I pulled that time. Now they're sealed, but I still got them. When he went on with Sean Oliver, and I confronted him about, because a lot of you may not know this, I'm the one that wrote the article like 18, 17 years ago that Perry Saturn no-sold bullets. I was the original author of that article, and I thought Perry Saturn was a hero. And for several years, I thought Perry Saturn was a hero. Then shit started not adding up. And then when I did some investigating and checked all the hospitals and checked the police reports and checked and there's no Perry Satullo anywhere in, I think it was Atlanta or even in the state of Georgia. Then I started doing IntelliSearches across the United States, and I probably spent about $100, $200, and I found out that he lied. And when he went on Sean Oliver's podcast, I confronted him, and he was like, this guy's full of shit. By the way, I don't know who the hell you are. I kind of felt bad. I'm happy that Perry Saturn is still with us. The bottom line is Perry Saturn is alive. And I hope he's doing well. I'm shocked after all these years he's given me credit for that. So, but no, it was not a bounty hunter. I might have been a dog for doing that, but I ain't a bounty hunter. So, Mark Hicks, the second. Do I think CM Punk will turn heel before he retires? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think so. CM Punk, you don't do it now because he's so over. His merchandise is over. He's over online. The guy has matured tremendously over the last couple of years. There's no reason to turn him right now. But I think down the line when it's, we'll feel the vibe. We'll know when it's time. That doesn't mean WWE is going to do it when we feel it's time. But there'll be a certain vibe, and when that vibe comes, and the beauty about it is, CM Punk is awesome as a heel. He is awesome as a heel. So you're going to get good shit. Cody Rhodes may end up getting toxic heat when he turns heel. But right now, Cody Rhodes it's insane how much merchandise he's selling. It's not just how much merchandise he's selling, it's per piece. See, nothing against WrestleNomics and some of these places, but they do get my appreciation for the research that they do. They legitimately work real hard doing research. Unfortunately, though, there are certain specifics within Warner Brothers Discovery and TKO Group Holdings and WWE that you cannot obtain. And when you start guesstimating, like where Dave Meltzer says AEW is likely going to earn $70 million in profit in 2024. Like, how do you fucking even say something like that when tickets haven't been sold yet, pay-per-views haven't been sold yet, merchandise hasn't been sold yet? Next year, I'm going to make $1 million, everybody. I mean, that's just reckless. That's just, hey, can I stroke you a little bit harder? So when it comes to merchandise sales, you got to trust what people are posting online. Like when Fanatic says Cody is the 5th highest selling merchandise of anybody. That's in any sport. That's crazy. That's freaking crazy. But it's not just him being the 5th highest of anybody. It's how much money people are spending on his stuff. There's people dropping $200, $300, $400, $100, $1,000, $200, $300, $400, $1,000 on one fucking item. Those belts that he autographs, they sell 100 like this. I mean, even if he didn't autograph it, I wouldn't buy that. What am I going to do? Hang it in my wall? Ooh, very cool Nightmare belt. It's not for me. You look at that fan base that's spending this crazy amount of money on Cody Rhodes. Then you see the Nimrods on social media. Cody's not over. Hey, Cody's a disappointment. Like, based on what? Based on your personal opinion? If you have an opinion, express it. But don't claim it as factual, because it's not. I'm not the biggest Cody Rhodes fan. It kind of blows my mind to see the amount of money some people are spending. It's crazy to think that. Also makes me think WWE really missed an opportunity. You realize how much money they could have made off of John Cena 15 years ago, 10 years ago? It is insane. And I brought this up before. 10, 15 years ago, when I used to go, I still do it now, but 10, 15 years ago, when I would go to customers' houses of mine to pick up insurance checks, almost every household that had kids in it had John Cena stuff in it. I remember clearly going into one customer's house, walking in, and there's fucking John Cena stuff everywhere. And I'm like, oh, your kid's a John Cena fan. And I think to myself, my God, other than the shirts and the hats and the wristbands and the figures, they could have sold an insane amount. They could have sold things $400-$500, and I think people would have paid it. It's crazy how much money they left on the table. That's why when you see people writing these blogs now, like WWE's charging insane prices. Do you say that when the Super Bowl happens? Do you complain and cry foul at the Super Bowl or a Taylor Swift concert? Why are the prices that high? Because that's how much demand those tickets are. So if WWE's in that much demand, yeah, that's how much money the tickets are going to cost. When WWE starts to suck and they start drawing disappointing, that's when you'll hear tickets start at $15 a person. It's just that the people who complain, they don't want to spend the money. They don't want to spend the money. And because they don't want to spend the money, they're like, oh, WWE's charging outrageous prices. Mr. No Matter What, thank you for the 6 spot. No matter what could WWE do to recharge Bayley's push? Should she be more promiscuous on TV? Is she too dependent on the fans to pop for her? She's been a heel for a very long time. So I personally think that, she hasn't been a babyface all that long. I think the problem with Bayley is the lack of strong feuds. She had it with Nia Jax. Maybe they should have waited to have a feud with Nia Jax, because Nia Jax is on a roll right now. Even if you do not like Nia Jax, you have to admit she's on a roll. You're not going to take away that momentum yet. Tiffany Stratton will be the one to do that. She will be the one. The problem with Bayley is the lack of intense feuds. Most people think that she should feud with Naomi. Naomi, I don't want to give away spoilers, but for the Speed tournament, you're not going to be happy where Naomi is. Actually, no, they did do the outcome already. Naomi lost. She lost to Io Sky, so she's out of that tournament. I watched her in the middle of the ring at Bad Blood with Bianca, and I listen, I'm a Naomi fan, so please don't get upset when they say this. But when I watched Bad Blood and the guest and the hosts of Bad Blood were Jay Cargill and Bianca Belair, and I see Naomi with them, I'm saying to myself, why are you here? Like, why do you have to be here? Like, why are you there? I think if you're going to turn Naomi heel, you have to have her shunned from certain areas. Like, oh, Bianca and Jade are the champions. They're hosting. Okay, listen, Naomi, we'd love for you to be there, but we're hosting it. Sorry. Bayley, look, Naomi, I really appreciate it. I know you want to talk, but I got a match coming up. Sorry. Like, everybody should not have time for Naomi. And Naomi be like, fuck this, and have Naomi just snap. That's what I would do. I think Bayley and Naomi should be a feud, The only problem is, what do you do with Naomi afterwards? You're not putting Naomi in the bloodline storyline. You're not adding women to it. Too late. You're not adding. I'd rather have Rikishi in that storyline than have Naomi. It's too late for that. Bayley just needs good feuds. You know, you can't always be a champion. And, you know, I still think back a couple of weeks ago when the same scholars in the wrestling news world was saying, oh, Bayley's going to Raw. She's going to lose that match, that tag team match with Nia and Tiffany versus Bayley and Naomi. Bayley's going to get pinned and she's going to have to leave SmackDown. And that didn't happen. They don't, no. I think Bayley just needs a good feud, and I think Naomi is the right person. The problem is, what do you do afterwards? That's my only issue. So, all right, VJ. VJ has been a channel member for 17 months. Happy 17 months to you, VJ. Thank you. He would like to know, does Gunther lose to Sammy and Gunther faces Goldberg at Crown Jewel? And do we get Cody versus Sammy at Crown Jewel and Sammy goes over at Saudi? No. Crown Jewel is going to be those championships that Triple H introduced. It's going to be the world champion versus the undisputed WWE champion. And on the women's side, the same thing. So at Crown Jewel, you know, Crown Jewel's in November. The other Saudi show, I think, is in what, March? February or March? You could do that in February or March, but the next event in November is going to be Gunther versus Cody Rhodes. And as it stands right now, Liv Morgan versus Nia Jax. I think by then there's a possibility Tiffany Stratton wins that belt. We may have Liv Morgan versus Tiffany Stratton. They're not going to do Gunther and Goldberg. I've always defended Goldberg. Fuck. Do I have it here? I don't have it here. I got like vintage Goldberg stuff like all over this room. I just can't find any of it right now. I've always been a fan of Goldberg. But at this stage of the game, have your retirement match and be done. Gunther is on such a different level. If WWE gives me Gunther and Goldberg, even if it's in Saudi Arabia next year, I want to see Gunther chop him so bad. I wanted him to chop him so bad that there's this giant handprint on his chest. I don't want to see Goldberg spearing Gunther. I don't want to see Goldberg manhandling Gunther. That ain't happening. The only reason why we saw what we saw on Bad Blood is because they were in Atlanta. If they were in any other place, Gunther would not have been, Goldberg, he might have been sitting front row, but they would not have done that. Goldberg is from Atlanta. He was on the Falcons. He's beloved in Georgia. That's why Goldberg was there yesterday. They're not going to do Gunther and Goldberg. They're not. And trust me, even if you're the biggest Goldberg fan out there, or you used to be, I think a boatload of people will cheer for Gunther. Goldberg has no business being in the ring with Gunther. No. Have Goldberg take on Chad Gable. I know that sounds unfair to Chad Gable, but you give him a match like that, you don't give him Gunther. Even if he loses, you don't do that. No. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that. I want to see Brock Lesnar and Gunther. Give me that. In fact, I think that could legitimately be a WrestleMania 41 match. Brock Lesnar will be back soon. They may hold him off till the Royal Rumble. I don't know. Brock Lesnar will be back in the next couple of months. Trust me, he is not banished. This is not the Vince McMahon WWE anymore. All right. His only crime in that Janelle Grant case was that he was sent some pictures and he thought about wanting to sleep with her, but he didn't do anything. If he's guilty of anything, it's being a bad husband. To even think about wanting to sleep with someone other than your wife, he's guilty of being a bad husband. There's a lot of bad husbands in the WWE that are featured on television. Brock Lesnar, listen, is Brock Lesnar disappointed that Vince is gone? Sure. But at the end of the day, business is business. Brock Lesnar will be back. He will be back. No, Brock really didn't do anything. He didn't. I mean, you might think he's a creep. That I'm fine with that if that's how you feel. But you don't like, because social media hates him, like, oh my God, he was going to take advantage of a woman that was brainwashed and abused and trafficked and this and that. You know, as powerful as her attorney may sound, and as, you know, horrible, put it this way, there's a lot of people that have sympathy for Janelle Grant simply because Vince McMahon is on the opposite side of that. That's something people need to realize, that there are people out there, quite a few people, that are supporting Janelle Grant simply because they hate Vince. Deep down inside, people are questioning, you know, how much of this was, you know, forced and how much of this was freaks. You know, I've said it before, it's not our world. It might be for a few of you out there, but for 99% of us, it's not our world. But the idea that a young woman wouldn't, you know, find a sugar daddy, and then, you know, just the sugar daddy, listen, I've said this all along. Vince McMahon is a sex addict. And it proved it to me when he made that remark on the Netflix documentary. Vince McMahon is a sex addict. And unfortunately, when you are an addict of anything, you have to add and build and add. You have to increase that excitement. You look at that movie, 50 Shades of Grey. It didn't start off at the beginning of the movie full-blown, perverse like it did. No, it gradually went up. Ooh, blindfold, no. Tied up, no. Now I'm blindfold, tied up. I'm upside down. I'm hanging off a cliff and I'm getting penetrated. You know, it builds. You see mass murderers, unfortunately. What do? They start abusing animals, then they start murdering animals, then they want to escalate and they want to abuse people. It goes bigger and bigger. Vince, he became a sex addict. And he became, you know, that mental, I got to be in control. I got to be powerful. I got to, you know, this. And he finally, after 75 years, finally found his ultimate fantasy. We don't know how much of it was forced. We don't know how much of it was consensual. All I'm saying is, and I'm not defending Vince, I hope we find out he didn't commit crimes, because nobody wants to see anybody committing crimes. I think at the end of the day, even if you don't like Diddy, you're hoping that maybe this, you know, people are fucking with Diddy and hopefully he really didn't do what they're saying that he did, because you say to yourself, how the hell did this say silent for all those years? How does that say silent? How does even a random person, because even the women that got abused in that Diddy accusations, look at some of the people that they dated. You know, not everybody was like a Lil Wayne superstar. Some of them were like little dweeb, you know, like, that makes like $10,000 on OnlyFans as his career. You mean to tell me that no schmuck that is not a celebrity doesn't just randomly go to the cops and say, listen, motherfucker's doing some shady stuff. You anonymously fake post it. You put it on Twitter. You're doing Odyssey Jones. You know, nobody did that. Just pay off everybody. It's crazy to think that it was hidden like that. So I don't want to see Vince guilty of this. It's because I don't want to find out that this guy committed crazy sexual crimes. I do think the feds are going after him because of the money side of things. I think he'll get in trouble for that. You know, Vince gave me wrestling entertainment for 45 years because I've been a fan since 79. Like, I would love to indirectly say, thank you. Not, thank you, fuck you, bye-bye. Some people will get that. So I'm getting into the other ones. I didn't forget. We just segueing into certain discussions. I'm going to bring up Mr. No matter what, do I see the slight decrease in SmackDown ratings becoming a problem? Nah, not at all. Not at all. NXT is the reverse of it. The facts are if you watch regular television, CBS, NBC, Fox, ABC, UPN, if that's still around, and CW, that's technically what we used to call regular TV. USA Network is cable. And unfortunately, guys, there are people out there that if it's not on regular TV, they don't follow it to cable. It's just a fact. You could see an NBA game air on regular broadcast TV and pop a rating, and those very same two teams will have a game down the line on TBS or something else, and it's half the rating. It's just the way it is. You cannot compare Fox to USA Network. And just like NXT, NXT's been averaging 6s for the most part, sometimes 5s. Right now they did almost 900,000. And by the way, give Kev credit. Kev predicted 900,000. I think it was 895. I think I said 917, so I was a little bit farther away. But, not everybody is aware of NXT as of right now. They're going to get new viewers. You see the people that are portrayed in NXT, that's going to attract casual people who watch wrestling once in a while, and they'll tune in here and there. So NXT is going to consistently get a better rating on CW than the USA Network. And look at Raw now. Raw, from now to the end of the year, is going to pop a much better number because there's no longer hour 3 to bring them down. Be prepared on Tuesday. You will have your Meltzers and your WrestleNomics that'll go out of their way. And when Raw has 150,000 viewership increase, they'll say, remember, everyone, there's no hour 3. So these numbers are not necessarily what they appear to be. Bullshit. If you average 1.6 million viewers, that means you average 1.6 million viewers. Sometimes you pull back a little bit. Like we do a show. And if like the first hour draws 500 viewers and the second hour draws 300 viewers and the third hour only draws 80, we might say, you know what? Maybe we're doing it too long. Maybe we should just do it for 2 hours. And now we average 500 and 350. And you're like, okay, now that looks better. That's the way it is. Sometimes less is more. So no, the SmackDown numbers being down is expected. It's expected. Those in the media world that are not factoring in the difference with Fox and USA Network are either dumb or they're intentionally ignoring that aspect just to criticize that SmackDown's numbers have been down. So, all right. I'll get back to someone else in a second. Roderick Howard says, what's next for Drew McIntyre? Maybe a trade to SmackDown. They get another big heel, even with Kevin Owens' attack on Cody. I don't think you move Kevin Owens to Raw right now. You have to revisit Kevin Owens and Cody. Plus, Randy Orton is a very important aspect of that storyline. Randy Orton is going to be in the middle of those two guys. And then Randy Orton's going to have to make a decision down the line. And most of us believe that Randy Orton will make the right decision and beat the fuck out of Cody as well. Drew McIntyre right now needs to take a little time off. I think Drew McIntyre, listen, I loved how they focused on the back. When he attempted that Claymore and landed, looked like his spine on those steps. Remember, he had a back injury. So they're going to sell the back. He's got to take some time off. And when he comes back, he's got to be a little bit humble. Not want kumbaya with CM Punk. No, man. If I try to take out permanently my opponent, just because my opponent outlasted me doesn't mean I have respect for him. I mean, Drew, if you pay attention to his interviews, Drew McIntyre has shown some respect for CM Punk. I may not like the man, but you have to admit, I can't do Drew. I have to hear his voice, but I sound like Miro meets Sheamus meets Drew. Drew's got to take some time off. I think what happens maybe when Drew comes back, maybe next week or the week after, he cuts a promo about, what happened. And maybe Gunther comes out and just beats a dick. Gunther just laughs at him, like just celebrates the fact. Listen, I'm not saying Gunther is the right person. Because the problem is if Gunther comes out, Drew ain't taking that belt from Gunther. So we have to wait and see. Drew may end up beating Jey Uso down the line and become the next Intercontinental Champion. But Drew McIntyre, I don't know if you turn him babyface. You could have him as a tweener. If you do him as a tweener, somebody's got to come out and make fun of him. When they make fun of him, then you could go a different route. But right now, Drew's got to take some time off and sell what happened at Hell in a Cell. Tease that Drew McIntyre's WWE future is uncertain. And the more that Drew is out, the more fans will want him back. Drew McIntyre's lost quite a few matches, especially in the house show circuit. Because right now, Drew McIntyre is such a good heel, the fans want to see him get his ass kicked and lose. But it's going to be a point when Drew McIntyre starts winning again. The only question is against who. So, all right. We've gone 72 minutes. We'll go a little bit longer. I don't want to overstay my welcome tonight, because tomorrow is going to be a pretty big show for Kev and I. And once again, we start an hour earlier. And, don't forget, we will be live at 10:15 p.m. Yes, we're going to obviously do a recap and a review of Bad Blood, but there's a lot of other things we're going to be getting into as well. We're going to discuss Raw, wrestling news, some discussions. So DTKCDiscord.com. And hope you could join us. So Sam is asking, with WWE doing Saturday night's main event in December, what does AEW do with Collision at the same time slot? I think they'll just go normal. I mean, you can't keep changing your schedule simply because WWE has a show on at the same time. Sometimes you got to just bite the bullet and say, hey, man, they outdrew us. It is what it is. What a lot of people are not prepared for, and I'm going to prepare you now, and I want you to remember this. For those that do care about ratings, be prepared for this. Dynamite next year, when it airs live, is actually going to be on two different channels. It's going to air on TBS, and it's going to air on Max. Same time. That means you're going to have people watching AEW through Max instead of TBS. So there is a good chance Dynamite's ratings go down even further. And the interesting thing about it is the first excuse people will say is that that's because many people are watching on Max now. Here is what you have to prepare yourself for. You're not going to get the number of viewers on Max unless it's a good number. Plus, you will get some people that will come out with a number on Max, unsubstantiated, and then they will add that to the Dynamite number and say, look, everybody, Dynamite drew 800,000 fans. And that's not the way it works in broadcasting and cable. Right? You can add everything and say, listen, during those hours, the two channels combined scored that. Tell that to an advertiser. Tell that to the advertisers that are paying a certain amount of money to air their commercials on TBS during Dynamite. And now they have 100,000 viewers less because quite a few of them are now on Max. What do you do there? How do you renegotiate those commercials? I didn't negotiate at this price thinking that people are going to be splitting viewership. So Dynamite's numbers are going to be different. And Netflix, you're no longer going to get those quarter-hour breakdowns that people like to create unless the sources themselves, WWE and Netflix, wants to put that out. So monitoring ratings are going to be a lot different than what they used to be. It's could be a lot different. So, oh no, Nielsen's ratings are not going anywhere. You know, advertisers still pay to have commercials aired in prime time. When advertisers pay prime money, it's for first run programming and live programming. It's not the repeat that airs at 4 o'clock in the morning on True TV. It's what they are airing live, first run, prime time. All right. Who hasn't asked a question yet? Tristan, what do I think of the taser gun ending to Goldberg's streak? I think Kevin Nash was the right man. No, it sucked. It sucked. It was cheesy. The cattle prod, you know, just everything about it was just horrible. You know, Goldberg had an aura about him. The streak had to end sooner or later. It was just really, really, it's just a representation of WCW at that time. They did a lot of very stupid decisions, and creatively that sucked. It sucked. Goldberg, you know, listen, I get doing that because you don't want Goldberg pinned clean. So it took a stun gun, cattle prod to take out Goldberg. No, actually it was a stun gun. So that's why they did it. Goldberg's got to lose his first match. Well, we don't want him to lose clean. So, you know, we want him to be taken out on special circumstances. The only problem is it sucked. Gruss says DDP should have beat Goldberg at Starrcade. Looking back on it, maybe it's just that Goldberg had such an aura about himself that, you know, he wasn't going to be passing the torch to anyone. And Goldberg losing to DDP, listen, it's almost like Undertaker's streak at Madison, at WrestleMania. WrestleMania. You know, when he lost that streak, it was going to be shocking, no matter who it was. People in wrestling saying years later it should have been Roman to do that. I want to slap every single person that says that in the wrestling world. Because at that time, Roman Reigns was one of the wrong persons to do it because Roman Reigns was not on the level he ended up being, you know, years later. Roman at that time, fans would have thought that was one of the worst decisions. Yeah, later on, you like him and he's turned it around and he's, you know, the focal point of the company. He wasn't at that time. So I don't know if DDP would have been the right person. Don, I actually did say Matarazzo early this morning when we talked about Nikki Garcia and Artem. Now I get his name right. Chigvin Steph or something. I called them both Matarazzos. It's just, I just can't picture the court reviewing these order of protection requests and, you know, my wife was making fun of me that I can't even make bread the right way. I'm like, oh God, it's California though. Sorry if anybody that's tuning in from California, but you know, those two are just, I don't wish any ill will on anybody, but they're made for each other, man. They're made for each other. When we get into it tomorrow, you'll see why. Please, you got to go out of your way and check out that picture of Artem showing his arm on TMZ. If I was on TMZ and I knew I wouldn't get fired over it, if I was the one interviewing Artem and he says, "Look at my arm. This is what you did to me," I would have been like, "The fuck is that? Little kids get bigger scrapes coming off their bike. Grow up. Fuck is wrong with you? What's wrong with you?" That's what I would have said. They were just like nodding there. You know who should have interviewed him? Who was that guy? Mojo Rawley. Mojo Rawley, with all due respect, has turned into the biggest sissy that does interviews now because he asks questions, legitimate questions, and he gets these bullshit non-answers. And he sits there and he's like, and he's just nodding his head and smiling. And I'm like, I wish somebody would just punch you right in the teeth right now and break those fucking teeth. He's sitting there and he's like, "I have to collect the paychecks. This is how I make money now. I need to collect a paycheck." You know, and he's just smiling. And I'm like, the fuck answers you getting? And you're going along with it? Mojo Rawley. What a waste. What a waste. Larry Jester. What's up, Larry? If I could create a tag team with the current WWE main roster and give them a tag title run, which two superstars would I choose? Oof. I don't have the roster in front of me. Choose a tag team. Any tag team. I would choose, you know what? I think down the line, I think Joe Gacy and Dexter Lumis should be a team. Well, they are a team, but I think they should win the tag titles. I think the Street Profits, even though they're already a tag team, they need to win the tag titles. This is just too long now. This is just way too long. Taking two people randomly and put them together, I don't know. You know, I can't think of anybody right now. Maybe on the women's side a little bit more. I think Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez should legitimately be considered getting tag titles again. I think that would be a great team. The problem is that you got all factions now, and you know the factions. I can't think of anybody. Maybe Andrade and somebody would be a good one. You know, the tag team division is not what it used to be. They have legitimate tag teams that need a little bit more focus. Mike asks, when will the new bloodline get a big win against Cody or Roman? Are they stuck being jobbers? They're not stuck being jobbers. It's just that's their role. And Roman has only had one match. Roman's only had one match. So it's not like Roman keeps winning over and over and over and over and over again. You know, Cody is the champion. Cody should not be losing many matches. So they're not jobbers. They're tag team champions. Jacob Fatu is a beast. They're not jobbers. Solo Sikoa is the one that has lost an insane number of matches, but he's over. Solo Sikoa's record is as bad as Dominic Mysterio's. Dominic Mysterio's record over the last year, he's got like 3 wins or 4 wins and like 30-something losses. Dominic Mysterio is still over as one of the top heels of that company. You know, even last year, I brought this up. Charlotte Flair lost a crazy amount of matches. Charlotte Flair wasn't a jobber. They're not jobbers. Their role right now is to build up to War Games, and that'll segue to the Rumble, and then it'll segue eventually to WrestleMania, and we got to see what they do with Saudi. Kevin, I don't have any favorite moments from Antonio Rocca, way before my time. If I wrestled him, though, I would step on his feet. I would always step on his feet. Look, the guy was very impressive. Big motherfucker. Yeah, I know I took that from that rapper from AEW that time. Big motherfucker. Argentina Rocca. Antonio Rocca. Just way before my time. I've seen clips here and there, but I never watched them. I became a fan in 79. Antonio Rocca was not on my playlist at all. So, unfortunately. Rick Ross, that's what he was. Rick Ross. By the way, what the hell's going on with Keith Lee? Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable to think. You know, and it's, you know, even though it's unpopular, WWE did the right thing letting him go. I think WWE saw the writing on the wall that, unfortunately, when he got sick like he did, they were like, this guy is not what he used to be. And they cut ties. It's business, guys. It's not kumbaya. Oh, he's such a good guy. We can't fire him. That's awful. You can't fire him. Yes, they can. You know, unfortunately, not many people that were cut ended up becoming even bigger and better. And listen, Swerve Strickland, you know, what people need to remember, and Swerve is one of my favorite wrestlers in AEW. Love Nana as well. But when Swerve was in NXT, he wasn't even on the main roster yet. And when they started graduating some of those guys to the main roster, it never worked. You see what happened to Hit Row. It just bombed. So when you look at Swerve now and people like, oh, WWE didn't do right with him, what are you talking about? He was in NXT. Just because he was over and a future star in NXT doesn't guarantee, that he's going to be a main roster superstar. Of course, he excelled in AEW, but when the people are like, oh, you see, WWE fucked up. Well, you could say the opposite about someone else. Someone else could be misused in AEW, and they leave and they go to WWE and they end up prospering and becoming, top main event star. Do you turn around and say, oh, AEW fucked up? No. Jeff R., better big man, Andre or Paul White? I can't compare them. Andre was an attraction. And by the 80s, the guy really could not move around much. Andre was a special attraction. Paul White earned himself to be a legitimate wrestler. He was a big, listen, as far as ability goes, Paul White puts rings around Andre the Giant. But Andre the Giant, and this, I don't mean this the way it sounds, Andre the Giant was a circus clown. Andre the Giant was a freak show. Andre the Giant, you went to see because you always wanted to see him in person. I was blessed to see Andre a couple of times. I brought up the one night I saw him in the Ridgewood Grove Arena. He teamed up with Jimmy Snuka, and those ceilings were low. And Jimmy Snuka, I think, was sitting on his shoulders. Or am I mixing the two up? No, he was sitting on Jimmy's shoulders and he almost hit the ceiling. Andre the Giant was beloved. And his unfortunate, he had a medical condition, that led to, his giantism. Thank God it didn't turn out the way some others, that weren't in wrestling, but they had that disorder where they just kept growing and growing and growing and growing. Andre died at 46 years old? Same age as my uncle that worked in Ridgewood Grove Arena for the WWF. But got to remember, too, Andre drank fucking dozens and dozens of beers and fucking ate like a moose. It's not like, oh, well, Andre was just a big man and unfortunately, his size is what killed him. Wasn't just that. It was his cholesterol. It was his fucking alcoholism. It was a ton of things. When you're that big, you got to be extra careful. And Andre was like, nah, man, I'm going to enjoy myself and make myself happy. So Paul White, Big Show, I don't like comparing to Andre because you're comparing a beloved freak show to someone who ended up being a decent wrestler at what he did. Andre in the 70s was good. If you watch Andre before he really started slowing down, Andre was legit, man. It's not like Andre came into wrestling in the 60s and, was just always a freak show. Yeah, he was bigger and he was taller, but Andre early in his career, guy could go. Guy could legitimately go. All right. Let's start wrapping this up. We're at 90 minutes. We'll go like another 10 minutes. We'll get out of here. Definitely want to, don't want to overdo it tonight. We did the Daily News Update this morning. We'll do Bad Blood tomorrow. We got a few other things to get into as well. So, Isaiah, I'm doing pretty good. I finally got just about all the COVID out of my system. I still get a little cough here and there, but I'm pretty much back to normal, thank God. I see some people were talking about the election. I try not to put politics on the shows anymore. That was one thing that people hated that I did 6 years ago. That I feel bad at the time. I was just heavy into politics. It's not that I don't care anymore, but it's like, you know what? If Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are the best that this country has to offer. I don't need to care about politics right now. So the election is in a month. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens. It's going to be really interesting. So Vance, any new info on the Cain Velasquez legal problems? He will be sentenced very, very shortly. And, most people think that he will do additional jail time. He almost killed somebody, and he almost killed the wrong person. The court, unfortunately, is going to send a message. You cannot put the law into your own hands. Cannot be judge, jury, and executioner. And Cain Velasquez, I know this sounds impossible because you're talking about Gavin Newsom. Oh, I get hives when I think of him. If they sentence Cain Velasquez to even another day in jail, if I'm the mayor, I pardon him. I pardon him. Or the governor, I should say. I pardon him. I think Cain Velasquez will do more jail time, but it's not. I don't think it'll be like 5 years or 10 years. He was in jail for quite some time. So there's going to be time served. But Cain Velasquez will be sentenced shortly. He pleaded no contest to save his family from going through a trial and having things brought up again. I wish he would have pled temporary insanity. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I think if he would have pled temporary insanity, I think he would have had a legitimate shot beating the case. Look, this guy abused my nephew. How old was his nephew? Under 10? I snapped. I lost it. Temporary insanity. I think he would have had a legitimate shot, but I think the fact that he pled no contest makes me think there might have been a little bit of a plea deal, but he will be sentenced very, very shortly. And I'd be surprised if he does more than a year added, but we'll see. We'll see. With California, can never predict. Dave Calloway, do I think WWE should stop having the women wrestlers hit the male wrestlers with offensive moves since it's never reciprocal? He notices it in almost every mixed tag match. It's been like that for years and years and years and years and years. I remember a while back, people were convinced that they were bringing back intergender matches. WWE does not believe in men hitting women. I do expect, with this new regime, I will guarantee you, before the end of 2025, we will have at least one or two moments on TV where a guy lays his hands on a woman. And it will stand out like Baron Corbin to Becky Lynch. Because they haven't done, I don't think they've done it after. I mean, I know Tozawa had a match, I think, with Rhea Ripley or Nia Jax or something. And they did something with Tamina, I think, once. And, R-Truth might have had a little that's not intergender matches. Moving out of the way so, Tozawa moving out of the way so his female opponent could hit the corner is not, man-on-woman violence. That will, it will happen in 2025. It will happen. People are going to say to me, how are you so sure? It's just a vibe. It's not going to ever be the norm in WWE. I know, some women would like to wrestle men in the WWE. It's not their mindset. It's not going to start happening. You may get a rarity once in a while, and that rarity will probably be in the form of a Nia Jax or a Rhea Ripley or someone that looks like they can take care of themselves against men. So I think that's the deal there. Curated Vibrations, DeMarcus. Thank you for that, DeMarcus. It's DeMarcus. No, it's not DeMarcus. It's not his picture. What's the story with my picture on Twitter of me with Mick Foley and Terry Funk? That photo, I mean, I'm not going to get into the history of my friendship with Terry Funk and, being friendly with Mick Foley over the years. That picture itself, the short story of it, okay. Our video was going to do a shoot interview with Terry Funk in Pennsylvania that afternoon. I think it was 1998. And at the time, I was friends with a few people that worked in our video. And one of them reached out to me. I don't want to say who it is, but he reached out to me because he knew Terry Funk was my favorite of all time and said, hey, you want to come down to Philly? We're going to do a little autograph signing with Mick Foley and Terry Funk, and then we're going to do a shoot interview after if you want to ask any questions. I'm like, yeah, I'm there. So my ex at the time, who was not a wrestling fan, I asked her, will you come with me to Philly? And she said, yeah. So we drove all the way to Philly, and I ended up hanging out with Mick Foley and Terry Funk. They were the WWF Tag Team Champions at the time. And after they got together, they were all going to have lunch in the mall. So person I was friends with in our video said, hey, you want to hang out for a little while and have lunch? I'm like, yeah. So we had lunch, a whole bunch of people. Foley and Terry Funk were there. I remember Terry Funk, people were joking because he had a Colorado Rockies hat on, and I don't think he was ever a fan of the Colorado Rockies, by the way. I remember somebody ragging on him for his Rockies hat, and he was not a fan of the Rockies. As far as we knew, I don't think he was. I think he even admitted it. But what happened was they were going to do the shoot interview, and I couldn't be there at the studios for it, so I drove back home. And on my way back home, I got into a road rage incident, and I almost got arrested. And my ex actually had a hair-pulling fight with a woman that was in another car. And we had a road rage incident. And then right after the road rage incident, I went home, and just in time, I was able to call in, and I said, yeah, I'm here. I almost got arrested. I said, they're like, all right, you want to come on? And I asked Terry Funk a question or two. I'm on that shoot interview, and that's the story behind it. So big props to one person in our video. Well, he's not with our video anymore. And Doug Gentry, God rest his soul. Doug Gentry, man, if any of you out there that know or knew Doug Gentry, what an awesome guy, man. What a good guy that was taken off this earth so freaking early. I could someone check and see how old Doug Gentry was? What was he, like 34? Doug Gentry died so early, and that guy was so nice and so nice to me. And I'll never forget what he did for me when I had that brawl with Louis Ramos and I got put through the table with the thumbtacks and everything else, the bottle broken over my head. He was on commentary. And he was a little bit annoyed that the cameras weren't focused on us. And he's like yelling at the cameras, go over here. What are you doing? Doug Gentry was good people, man. I was shocked when he passed away. Maybe somebody could check his age. 34, yeah, 34. I remember. 34 years old. Doug Gentry, man. It's amazing how many people I became friends with in wrestling that died so young. It's just, it makes me think because, look at me. I'm in my mid-50s now. And I'm not this specimen for health. And, it makes me wonder, God, some people I was friends with are gone. Some obviously did themselves in, but some people, man, Doug Gentry was such a good guy, man. You guys that are younger wrestling fans, if you ever got to know him, you would have really appreciated him. He was truly one of the better guys in wrestling. No controversy, nothing. Really, really good one. So, Jeff R. sending over a 10 spot, his first super chat since 2020. That was him last week asking about the ads. He was talking about the ads that interrupt the live shows. Oh, no, don't feel bad, man. No, 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 no. You didn't have to send that because of that. Now I'm going to owe you a shirt. So if you have Twitter, DM me at Don Tony D. Let me know what size you are, if you want one, and a shipping address, and I'll ship a shirt to you. You don't have to do that. Listen, I honestly, I can't screenshot it, but I'll tell everybody. We don't make much on YouTube. And unfortunately, we're competing with shows that, how they call that? Engage. When you're engaging in hits and views just based on like a lot of clickbait. They do that on Twitter all the time, Twitter engagement. You look at, stuff like the Nikki Cross photo from Raw, the Wyatt 6 video package that ended with Nikki Cross, because Nikki Cross is going to be confronting a woman in the very near future. And I'm looking at people like purposely like writing, I think that could be Alexa Bliss. I'm like, you're not that mentally retarded. You're not that stupid to tell me that that's Alexa Bliss. And then I realized they're doing that for Twitter engagement. Say anything that gets attention. And I see that happening on YouTube, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating. I hate having to compete with that on YouTube. So unfortunately, we don't do that much over here. We will do more in the future. Obviously on the channel member side, we do the other shows as well. But, when I looked at, after Jeff said that last week, and I looked at the analytics, and I think I made, on last week's show, I think I made $21 on ad revenue. And then I looked to see how much of it was from the live show and how much of it was replays. And the live show, I think it was like $6, $7. So I'm like, you know what? For $6 or $7, I'm going to piss off 2, 3, 4, 500 people that are spending their Sunday night with me. I mean, sure, in a replay, ads are ads. We got to pay bills somewhere. But I was like, you know what? For $7, I'm going to make people's, because I know me. If I'm watching something, listen, that's as much as I respect Conrad and think he's gangster and respect everything that Conrad does, or even Chris Van Vliet. I can't watch Chris Van Vliet interview Otis, Batista, Damian Priest, and every 7 minutes, Blue Chew, cereal, this service. I'm like, oh my God, every fucking 7 minutes, there's, commercials, and I'm like, and I turn it off. I get it. They got to pay bills too, but when you're getting 800,000 hits, you don't need to plug a commercial every 5 fucking minutes, 10 minutes, but that's what they do. That's what made the Mick Foley podcast so unappealing. Mick Foley was doing Foley as Pod with Conrad, and I started binge watching them. And then out of nowhere, I don't remember when in the season it was, like every few minutes, it would segue into some advertisement about food, about Bluetooth, about real estate, about this, about something to drink, something to eat, something to shit. And I'm like, I just can't. And I turn them off and I don't watch them anymore. So I want everybody to have a good time and have a good experience here. So we're going to keep the ads off. And for everyone that is enjoying that, thank Jeff. And I mean that sincerely. Every little bit that comes in helps because, everybody takes a cut. I got to take care of Kev as well. We got to pay taxes too. And, it's, any little bit helps. But at the same time though, is $10, $7 in ads that much worth it to piss off a bunch of people? No. So they'll stay off during the live streams. And I appreciate you bringing that up last week because I don't watch myself live. So I have no idea when they pop up. So, and you know what? I'm not kidding when I say this. I'm looking at the average view duration and it's definitely longer than previous episodes. So maybe some people haven't clicked off because of no ads, but thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Jeff. And Curated, thank you for that. He sent the 5 spot saying, good show tonight. I'm glad everybody liked it. I'm in good mood. I feel good. We had a great week in wrestling. And I think next week listen, I'll tell you one thing about Monday's Raw. Be prepared for. This is not a scoop, but it's something that, we pretty much, I don't want to say we've been told, but we've been prepared. You're fitting 3 pounds of bologna in a 2-pound bag now. It is no longer 3 hours, it's 2. So there's going to be shorter segments, but not only that, there's going to be this leading to this, leading to this, leading to this. We've had it once in a while. There'll be an interview segment with Kathy Kelly. And then you'll hear commotion go in the back. And they'll be like, excuse me for a second. And she walks to a different room and suddenly there's this big brawl going on. And they pull apart. And then someone else will enter the picture. And that's what they're going to do. I don't want to use the term total nonstop action, but you're going to see things sped up a little bit. And they're going to try to fit a hell of a lot more in 2 hours. We just hope that it's not overkill, because after a while, it becomes a headache. Listen, I never like to compare AEW to WWE, and I'm not doing that now. But there's been episodes of Dynamite where they've had 60 wrestlers on a 2-hour Dynamite. 60. Sometimes even more. And I'm not kidding. Yes, you'll blow through 10 of them by having them all brawl in the back. But the point is that it gets to a point when you have too many people on the show, especially if you're taking notes to cover it later on. You want to sit back and enjoy it. You want to ingest it. You want to think, analyze it. You want to come up with some ideas of where this could go or how this could go, or maybe something went the way it shouldn't have. But when there's constant, overkill, sometimes it makes the shows a little less enjoyable. So chaos is good, but too much chaos, I think, gets a little messy. So it'll be something to get used to for a 2-hour show, but it's going to be so much more refreshing to finish at 10:15 p.m. instead of 11:15. I know it's only an hour difference, but I'm just like a lot of you out there. That Raw gets to the 10 o'clock hour and you're like, oh, another hour. And especially that third hour, sometimes that's when they give you kind of the garbage because they know it's the lowest rated hour of the night. So that's when you get some of the matches you have no interest in seeing, but you still watch it anyway. So the Russo style of WWF booking, it's not a part of today's society anymore. I know, especially on the AEW side, a lot of fans want that Attitude Era type content. The thing you have to understand is we're not in the Attitude Era anymore. It's not socially acceptable anymore. As much as you may like the extreme violence and the vulgarity, some of the sexual, overtones of what you see on Dynamite, and I'm fine with all of it. What you need to understand is that there still is standards and practices, and there's still advertisers and investors to answer to. So that's why I think AEW, announced as TV 14 since the beginning, was very smart, because the advertisers knew what they were getting when they signed on, with the exception of Pizza Hut. Most advertisers knew. They're TV 14 for a reason. But, you do limit yourselves to advertisers because not everybody wants to advertise on a TV 14 show. So And even if you tone your product down, that's why, guys, and it's funny because almost everybody I talked to in the last 5 days about this, almost every single one of them had the same answer. No, I didn't think of that. As soon as the TV deal was announced and True TV was not in on it, and Fox was not in on it, and 5 years turned into maybe 3 to 4. And then the money was off $40 million. Within 10 minutes, Dave Meltzer writes, AEW in negotiations with Fox for a show. 10 minutes after the press release. And I'm like, I wonder where he got that from. The press release just came out from Variety. Where did he get that from? He certainly didn't get it from the press release. It wasn't there. Then I thought about it, and then I saw the usual pundits try to outdo Dave by saying that, oh no, if AEW lands on Fox, it's not going to be FS1. It's going to be their main Fox channel. You know, the same channel that SmackDown was on. And that's when I knew it was bullshit. Because I said to myself, fans can't even chant holy shit on SmackDown. You're going to tell me that Fox is going to allow TV, they wouldn't even let Retribution be on SmackDown 4 years ago, whatever it was. What kind of show are you going to have on Fox? You're going to have to water it down to TV PG. There's going to be no blood. There's going to be no vulgarity. There's going to be no set. Like, why would anybody think that Fox would rather have AEW that's TV 14 on their network when fans can't even channel it? And I said, what kind of show are you going to have on there if you can't be AEW? I didn't think of that. And then you ask yourself, how is Fox going to have a shockwave? We're going to shock everyone. We're going to do the opposite of what we've done for the last 4 years. It's stupid. Nobody thinks of that. That's why remember a year and a half ago? Remember all those journalists? Oh, Raw starting Monday is going to be TV 14. Attitude Era is back. Oh my God, the death of PG. And I was like, what the fuck are they talking about? You can't just simply change your mind. Oh, you're going to be TV 14 from now on. Did you tell the stockholders? Did you tell the advertisers? Did you tell the investors? Well, you didn't think of that. And what happened? No TV 14. It's the opposite of what happened a year and a half ago. You know what? We're at an hour and 53 minutes. Let's just go 2 hours. We'll stay 5 more minutes. We'll finish 2 hours on the spot. So, let's see. I'm looking. My view on WWE being more graphic, trying to compete with AEW, getting ready for Netflix. No, they're not trying to compete with AEW. WWE is just showing that under the right circumstances, they will go a little extreme. What you got with Drew McIntyre and CM Punk and Hell in a Cell, it's the same thing you got with Rock and Cody Rhodes on Raw right before WrestleMania. When a feud turns into a blood feud, you have to have blood. That is the trade-off. When you have really bitter rivalries, this is not Eddie Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio. This is not a talented wrestler wrestling another talented wrestler. When there is hatred involved, bitter hatred involved, that is the price you pay when you create that much hatred. You look at Sheamus and Pete Dunne. This feud is ending. Because if they have this long, deep feud and there's so much hatred and violence, you have to interpret that on the TV screen. Donnybrook match on Raw is going to be like, you know, a couple of shillelaghs, a couple of this, a couple of that, and whoever wins it, and then the feud will be close to being over. It doesn't feel that personal hate. Don't call me Butch. That's a big difference of how Drew McIntyre felt what CM Punk did to his family and vice versa. It's a big difference going from that to, I'm mad at you because you called me Butch. You called me Butch. Like, you know, so when you have, listen, the Bloodline, Civil War games, that's got to get bloody. When you get that much hatred, it's got to equate in the match. So that's the only reason why we got what we got. It's not competing with AEW. It's not going attitude. It's just that is the payoff to a bitter, bitter, hated rivalry. And you won't see that all the time. You won't see that all the time. So, all right. Curated says, before we reconvene tomorrow, did I pop when Chelsea Green was backstage and Austin Theory was holding a giant cake? Grayson Waller mocked her. Listen, I'm kind of happy that Grayson Waller and Austin Theory have not split up yet, because there's little elements to their comedy that is so good. When I saw Cody take on Austin Theory last week, and Grayson Waller had the phone and he was dancing and Cody put his arm around him. I mean, we've seen that comedy stuff before. I think we saw it with Seth Rollins and someone last year. They still have a lot to offer on that side. And Chelsea Green, I think Piper Niven and Chelsea Green are about to go their separate ways. And I think once that happens, I think Chelsea Green will start becoming a babyface. And I even think Chelsea Green will address the fans like, why do you guys like me? That's going to be that kind of reaction. But Chelsea Green, I tell you, I'll admit this. When WWE signed her, I thought her comedy was goofy. Like when they did the Halloween thing and she put the pumpkin around her head, it reminded me of that scene in A Naked Gun. Remember when Leslie Nielsen with the pillow, the doctor threw the pillow in his face and he's like, I lost my hat. Like, that's what Chelsea Green reminded me of. Like, it's not even funny humor. It's like stupid. Boy, has she turned into a big time player. I absolutely love Chelsea Green's work. And I think now is the time you start reaping the rewards. So I like what they're doing with Chelsea Green. I like that Austin Theory and Grayson Waller are still together. Maybe they split up at Saturday night's main event. But I like how everybody is getting some opportunity and getting good opportunity. Good opportunity. But I'm still baffled about Candice LeRae going to the finals of the Speed title. I still, listen, Candice LeRae is a good person. She's talented, just hasn't clicked on mainstream television. But I think most people would have loved to have seen Kairi Sane and Io Sky go at it. But, and I brought this up last week, who really wants to see him fight for only 3 minutes? If Io Sky and Kairi Sane ever face off, I like for it to be like a 15, 20-minute classic, not 3 minutes. Plus, I still haven't gotten the answer to this. What happens now when Io Sky faces Candice LeRae? What happens if it goes to a draw? Do you restart the match? It's only 3 minutes. What do you do? So I mean, obviously, I don't think it's going to happen, but I always thought about that. Okay, you're determining who the champion is. What happens if it goes to a draw? You can just keep restarting the match, and then the next thing you know, they wrestle in 10 minutes. So, all right, everybody, I'm out of here. We are exactly at 2 hours. So once again, if you are interested, Kevin and I will be live tomorrow for the DTKC show. We'll be live at 10:15 p.m. in our Discord channel, dtkcdiscord.com. I know the graphic only says the recap and review of Bad Blood. I was just fucking around with thumbnails. We always do that on the Patreon side of things, but I liked the way it looked, and I liked adding my little fire graphic to it. So I figured, why not? So we got a lot to get into tomorrow. So I hope you could join us live. We'll be in our Discord channel, and enjoy Raw and enjoy that we are back to 2 hours. It's going to be something to get used to, but, at least we won't be burnt out. And this week, we have Wrestle Dream coming up for AEW. I will do predictions towards the latter part of the week. And, we'll go from there. Tuesday is NXT in Missouri, I believe it is. And, I think St. Louis, Missouri, I think they're going to be. Randy Orton will be taking on Javon Evans. We have Grayson Waller and Austin Theory on the card, Bianca and Jade on the card. There's supposed to be at least 1 or 2 surprises. And we'll see if we see the debut of Omos or Hikuleu on NXT. So that'll be something. May not happen Tuesday, but, one of those 2 is supposed to be coming soon. So we'll see what happens. For our Patreon family, this Tuesday, we're going to do what we did last week. We're going to start the show right after NXT ends so we can cover that. And we'll do the daily news update and the Patreon show back-to-back together. And then next Tuesday, it'll be back to the 8:30 time slot. So, and I should be announcing the winner of the predictions contest tomorrow. Wasn't too many entries, so I should be able to figure out the winner in 10 minutes. So tomorrow we should announce that. And I'll repeat it next weekend since it is related to YouTube. And Patreon will announce the winners on Tuesday's show, and Kevin will announce it on Thursday. So patreon.com/Don Tony, if anybody wants to go check that out. You have the channel memberships here. Download the episodes. Keep supporting the website, DTKCShow.com. And, hopefully Pro Wrestling Tees puts the shirt up on the store next day or 2. We've been waiting almost a week and nothing. So I don't want to be a pain in the ass and keep annoying them, but I don't know if it's because of my past comments about Colt Cabana, but you never know with politics. So, but at least you can get it here on YouTube for now. But be well, everyone. Much love. And I'll catch you all again tomorrow. DTKC Show. Be well.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella.
Ha ha! I don't know what happened there, but hi, everybody. Got to shout out our Patreon family. So, all right, let's redo.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.